I was lying gravely ill at home while my husband whisked his entire family away on a lavish vacation. Before leaving, he even hid my medication. When they returned on the 74th day and opened the door, he was stunned and frozen in place. He had tossed aside the vital medications of his helpless, bedridden wife, then casually jetted off to Europe, eagerly awaiting the day he could claim his inheritance. However, the greedy in-laws never suspected that when they returned, toting luxury suitcases, what would greet them wasn't a vast fortune, but a deadly web that cast them all under a bridge in the cold of the night. What really happened? I lay motionless on a plush bed in the middle of a spacious master bedroom in a luxury penthouse on Park Avenue, Manhattan. The room was so silent, I could hear each of my own weak, difficult breaths. This aggressive disease had drained all my life force, transforming me from a formidable woman who propped up the entire family business into a dying shadow of my former self. My life was now sustained only by expensive imported pills that I had to take on time every day. The cold winter wind whipping through New York City hissed through the gaps in the glass windows. Despite the central heating, I felt a bone-chilling cold seep into every joint and blood vessel. My body ached unbearably. For 3 days, I hadn't been able to get up on my own or even walk to the kitchen just to make a glass of warm water. I closed my eyes, trying to fight the nausea churning in my stomach. From the living room, I could hear loud laughter and chatter that shattered the sorrowful silence of this sick room. It was the voice of my mother-in-law, Brenda, and my sister-in-law, Tiffany. They were enthusiastically discussing the gowns they would wear while strolling under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. Then came the sound of suitcase wheels being dragged across the hardwood floors. My husband, Garrett, had just grabbed a few more things from his study. With the last of my strength, I reached out and gently tapped a glass on the nightstand to make a sound, hoping someone would come in. A few moments later, the bedroom door creaked open slightly. Garrett entered. He was already dressed in a sharp suit reeking of strong cologne. He looked at me with a cold gaze devoid of any pity or concern. I whispered my husband's name. "Garrett, it's time for my medication. Please get me a glass of warm water and the medicine bottle from the vanity." Garrett folded his arms across his chest, letting out a long, annoyed sigh. He complained casually, "You're so much trouble. Always asking for medicine. How long have you been taking it? Wasting so much money, but there's no sign of improvement. Just stay there, you can get up and get it yourself later. The whole family is busy getting ready for the airport. No one has time to constantly wait on you." I was stunned, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill from the corners of my eyes. I asked again, my voice trembling, "What did you say? Where is the family going while I'm lying sick like this? Who will make my broth? Who will get my medicine for me?" Brenda entered from the doorway, followed by Tiffany. My mother-in-law sneered, her gaze full of contempt as she looked at her daughter-in-law, who was growing thinner from illness. She said in a haughty tone, "We're going on vacation to Europe. The tickets were booked last month. Just because you're sick, should we all cancel a trip that was planned so far in advance? You're home alone. Take care of yourself. If you're hungry, order food online. Your medicine, get it yourself. Garrett has worked hard to support this family all year. He deserves to rest and have fun, too." Hearing those cruel words from my own mother-in-law's mouth, my heart felt like it was being squeezed. The reality was, from the luxury penthouse they lived in to the trading company Garrett led as his CEO, everything was built with my money and hard work. I had hidden my identity as the daughter of a conglomerate family, embracing the role of an ordinary wife and stepping into the background to protect my husband's pride. I handed him the CEO position so he could feel proud in front of his relatives and friends. But now that I had fallen ill, they saw me as a burden, a useless parasite. Tiffany, the sister-in-law who used to sweet-talk me for shopping money, now chimed in with her mother. "I'll just rest well at home, okay? We'll only be gone for about a month. Stop being so needy with Garrett. He's already exhausted from work pressure." They all went back to the living room, leaving me alone in the cold bedroom. I stared at the ceiling, tears streaming down, soaking the pillow. The cruelty of the people I once considered family, whom I had loved and cared for with all my heart, was now so starkly clear. They were excitedly preparing for a luxurious trip, completely ignoring the fact that without proper care and timely medication, I could die. The clock showed 11 p.m. It was time for Garrett's family to leave for JFK International Airport to catch an early morning flight. In the bedroom, intense pain began to grip my stomach because I had missed my medication time. The pain radiated from my stomach to my chest, leaving me breathless. Sweat poured down my face, even though it was a cold winter outside. I heard Garrett's footsteps approaching. I hoped that in these final moments before he left, his conscience as a husband would awaken. He would leave a bottle of warm water and get my medicine for me. However, reality is always crueler than one can imagine. Garrett walked over to the vanity where my expensive medications costing tens of thousands of dollars were placed. It was the only medicine that could suppress the progression of my illness, helping me survive from day to day. Instead of getting the medicine for his wife, he swept all the bottles off the table and coldly threw them into the trash can in the corner of the room. The sound of the plastic bottles hitting the trash can was dry and sharp, extinguishing the last glimmer of hope in my heart. I panicked, trying to get up, but my body was completely paralyzed. I screamed in utter desperation. "What are you doing, Garrett? Are you trying to kill me? Give me back my medicine." Garrett turned to look at me, a cruel and cold smile on his lips. He approached the bed, bent down, and whispered in my ear. His words were as sharp as a scalpel. "Stop your act," the doctor said. "Your disease is hopeless. Living another day will only add to the suffering. It's better if you go sooner to free yourself and this family. Don't worry. After you're gone, I will manage the company well and take care of Mom and Tiffany. All these assets are mine now. They have nothing to do with you anymore." I stared in horror at the man who had been my husband for years, horrified by his monstrous intentions. He was not just indifferent, but so cruel as to want to kill me slowly, to seize all the wealth I had painstakingly built, without giving me time to react. Garrett continued to twist the knife with his words. "I've taken all your credit cards. I've also taken your laptop and phone. Before I leave, I'll shut off the main power and turn off the water valve, the password to the main door. I changed it this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your life alone in this apartment. No one will come to help you." After saying that, he turned and walked out. The bedroom door slammed shut. A minute later, all the lights in the penthouse went out. The heating system stopped working. The sound of a key turning in the lock from the outside signaled that my in-laws had officially left, leaving me trapped in darkness, cold, and solitude. I lay there, my tears having dried up, replaced by a surging hatred. Garrett's cruelty had crossed the line of humanity. He wanted me to die of hunger, thirst, and be tormented by my illness in my own home. He was convinced I was a woman with no family, as I had always lied that my parents were poor back in my hometown and that I had lost contact with them. He had no idea that behind my weak appearance, I held the biggest secret of my life. The room plunged into thick darkness. The cold began to creep in and the physical pain intensified. I knew my condition very well. Without medicine, without water, I wouldn't last more than 24 hours. I couldn't die a futile and pathetic death like this. I had to live. Live to unmask these ungrateful people. Live to reclaim what was mine. A powerful survival instinct kicked in. I started to gather the last remnants of my strength, biting my lip to find a way to save myself. The darkness that enveloped this luxury apartment now felt like a cold tomb. My body burned with a high fever, yet my hands and feet were as cold as ice. Each sharp pang of pain from my internal organs made me bite my lip until it bled to prevent myself from fainting. I knew if I closed my eyes now, I would never wake up again. Garrett had taken my smartphone and laptop, cutting off all normal means of communication. But he never suspected the caution that had become second nature to me as a businesswoman. Under the mattress in the deepest corner of the latex bed, I had hidden an old-school black and white burner phone with an extremely long-lasting battery along with a disposable SIM card I had never used publicly. It was a precautionary habit from my early days in business when I was always worried about unexpected risks. I never thought that this object I considered useless would become my only lifeline between life and death. I tilted my body with great difficulty, shifting bit by bit across the bed. Every small movement felt like 1,000 needles piercing my skin. Sweat drenched my pajamas. It took me almost half an hour to reach the edge of the bed, then grope under the heavy mattress. My fingers trembled, stiff with cold as I fumbled in the narrow space. Finally, I touched the hard plastic surface of the phone. After successfully retrieving it, I felt a wave of relief. Its monochrome screen glowed dimly in the darkness. The battery indicator showed it was still full. Seeing that small light, I cried. Tears fell onto the screen. I took a deep breath, pressing one by one the numbers that were etched in my memory. A number I hadn't dared to call for years. The phone number of my biological father, Mr. Harrison Thorne. In truth, I was not an ordinary orphaned woman, as Garrett's family thought. I was the long-lost daughter of Harrison and Catherine Thorne, the founders of a renowned real estate and global logistics conglomerate. Due to some incidents and misunderstandings in my youth, and to protect my pure love for Garrett from the scrutiny of our different social statuses, I chose to live independently and hide my true identity. My parents were furious, but they still protected me from afar secretly. I used my personal trust fund to build my career, covering my tracks from my in-laws, and willingly became a subservient wife to get what I believed was genuine family love. Now, on the verge of a death designed by my own husband, I realized how fatal my mistake had been. The phone on the other end rang 3 times before it was picked up. Even though it was the middle of the night, my father's deep authoritative voice was clear. Hello, who is this? Dad? It's me, Alara, your daughter. Dad, help me. My voice was hoarse, weak, and broken by pain. On the other end, there was a moment of silence, then a loud crash, as if something had fallen and broken. I heard my mother's voice, Catherine's, in a panic. Was that our daughter? Harrison, let me talk to her. My father tried to remain calm, but his voice had changed with anxiety. Era, where are you? What's happened to you? Your mother and I are here. Explain your condition now. Don't be afraid. Mom and Dad are here. I fought through the pain and explained my situation clearly. I'm gravely ill, locked in the penthouse in Manhattan by my husband's family. The power and water are off. They threw away all my medicine and went abroad. I can't walk anymore. The password to the front door has been changed. Dad, send someone to break down the door and save me. Please hurry. Dad, I'm in so much pain. Without asking further questions, the decisive nature of a conglomerate chairman immediately took over. My father gave orders crisply. Keep your phone on. Don't hang up. Your mother and I are on our way. The call ended. I clutched the phone tightly. The room was still dark and cold, but a spark of warmth had ignited in my heart. The bond of family is the most sacred feeling. It will never betray or abandon you in your most difficult moments. I closed my eyes peacefully, waiting for the light of life to knock on the door. Simultaneously, I buried this grudge deep within me, vowing to myself that I would make those ungrateful people pay a fitting price. The wait felt like an eternity, like centuries passing. The cold of the New York night continued to seep into my weak body. I began to drift into a semi-conscious state. Happy childhood memories with my father and mother flashed before my eyes, alternating with the cruel face of Garrett as he threw away my medicine bottles. Suddenly, a loud noise that shook the entire penthouse came from the living room. The deafening sound of a metal cutter shattered the silence, followed by the hurried footsteps of people running down the hallway. High-powered flashlights swept across every corner, chasing away the thick darkness. My bedroom door was kicked open. The dazzling light forced me to squint. In the beam of light, I saw a familiar figure. My father, Harrison Thorne, a man who always presented an authoritative face in the business world, was now running towards my bed with a pale, panic-stricken face. Right behind him was my mother, Catherine, accompanied by a medical team in white coats carrying emergency equipment. "Oh my God, my daughter," my mother cried, rushing to embrace my cold body and weeping hysterically. Her warm tears fell on my cheek. carrying with them an infinite love. My father stood beside me, his large trembling hand gripping mine tightly. He turned and yelled at the private medical team he had just urgently summoned. Check her vital signs now. Inject her with a heart stimulant. Do whatever it takes to save my daughter's life. Dr. Evans, who had been our family doctor for years, quickly approached. He swiftly checked my pulse, measured my blood pressure, and ordered a nurse to immediately set up an IV drip. The patient is in shock due to a lack of vital medication and severe hypothermia. She must be moved to the family's private hospital and placed in the intensive care unit immediately with swift and careful movements. I was wrapped in a thick thermal blanket and placed on an emergency stretcher. As the medical team carried me out of the penthouse, I saw my father's personal security team already on standby in the hallway. My father paused for a moment in the middle of the living room, looking around the cold, powerless, and waterless home. His eyes blazed with extraordinary anger. He ordered his assistant, standing beside him, "Have people secure this apartment in its current state. Collect all the CCTV footage from this building. How dare they do something so cruel to my daughter? I will show them what it means to be alive, yet feel dead." A special ambulance wailed, breaking the silence of the city night, speeding towards the best international hospital in the city. Inside the warm ambulance, my mother continued to hold my hand, ceaselessly stroking my sweater-drenched hair. My father sat quietly in the corner, his eyes red, holding back heartache and regret. "I'm sorry, Dad, Mom," I whispered through the oxygen mask. My mother quickly placed her finger on my lips, gently soothing me. "Don't say anything, dear. Save your strength. We're almost home. Dad and Mom are here. No one can hurt you anymore." That night, the battle to reclaim my life was fought fiercely in a private emergency room. With the help of the most modern equipment and the most expensive drugs provided by my family, my heartbeat slowly began to stabilize. After passing the critical phase, I fell into a deep, safe, and peaceful sleep. For the first time after years of being a wife and daughter-in-law, I felt what true protection meant. The angel of death had knocked on my door, but the embrace of my family had pulled me back from the abyss. I woke up as the warm morning sun streamed through the large window of the VIP hospital room. A week had passed since that terrifying night. My health had miraculously recovered under the intensive care of the best team of doctors and the boundless love of my parents. Every day I was given the most nutritious foods, like organic bone broths and rare supplements, combined with the most advanced treatment protocols. This morning my mother brought a bowl of fragrant chicken noodle soup. While feeding me, she gently told me light-hearted stories to cheer me up. My father entered the room holding a tablet. His face was calm, but his eyes always radiated sharpness. He pulled a chair to the bedside and said clearly, "Ara, look at this. Dad's investigation team has restored all your personal accounts." I took the tablet and swiped the screen. A series of red-flagged bank notifications filled my private email. Alongside that, the social media pages of Tiffany and Brenda were open. While I was fighting for my life back home, my in-laws were enjoying a life of luxury in Europe with my hard-earned money. On her personal page, Tiffany continuously posted check-in photos at famous locations in Paris. She wore a lavish fur coat, carried a Chanel bag worth tens of thousands of dollars, and smiled for a photo under the Eiffel Tower. Her caption was full of pride. "Life is short. You have to enjoy the luxury my brother provides." Brenda wasn't to be outdone. She constantly live-streamed on social media, showing off to relatives back home about dining at Michelin-starred restaurants in Italy and staying in extravagant five-star hotels. In one comment section, when a relative asked about her sick daughter-in-law at home, Brenda casually typed a reply. "Life and death are destined. Our family has done our best. If it doesn't work out, what can you do? We'll be home soon to arrange the funeral." That's being beautiful enough. Next to the glamorous photos was a long credit card statement. Garrett had used the supplementary credit card linked to my company's account to shop without limits. A Rolex watch, diamond jewelry, paying for luxury hotel suites, and renting a convertible to drive along the coast. In just over 2 months, the amount they had spent had exceeded $500,000. Seeing the numbers dancing on the screen, my heart no longer felt pain or despair, but a frightening calm. The heartache had frozen, crystallizing into a will as strong as steel. They thought I was rotting at home, getting ready to plan a celebration party and collect the inheritance. They treated my life like trash, using my money to satisfy their boundless greed. My father spoke up, breaking the silence. "What's your plan to handle this? If you want, I can immediately freeze all their credit cards abroad, leaving them stranded on the streets right now." I shook my head and placed the tablet on the table. My voice was soft but firm. "No need, Dad. You wanted to call the FBI and have them arrested for attempted murder right now. But going to jail today is too easy for them. Let them indulge as much as they want. Let them fly as high as they can in their illusion of wealth. I want them to enjoy their full 74-day vacation as planned. During that time, I will fully recover, reclaim all legal documents, transfer ownership of the assets, and revoke the CEO position at the company. I want them to face their worst nightmare the moment they walk through that door with their suitcases. I will take back everything, not a single penny less, and I will make them feel what it's like to lose everything in an instant." My father smiled with satisfaction. He stroked my head, his eyes full of pride. "Good. That's my daughter. For the company and legal documents, the group's legal team will help you handle everything. You just need to focus on your recovery." Over the following days, while undergoing treatment, I secretly cast a giant net. The 74 days of Garrett's family's extravagance abroad were also my 74 days of transformation, shedding all weakness and resignation to become my true self again. A tough woman, ready to face and clean up the trash in my life. The story of revenge has only just begun. Time flew by. 74 days felt like a long dream filled with a mix of emotions. The first few days in the intensive care unit of the International Hospital, I had to endure excruciating physical pain. The strong antibiotics and treatment protocols left me extremely weak, but every time I opened my eyes and saw my father's worried gaze and my mother's encouraging smile, I told myself I couldn't give up. I had to live, not just for myself, but for the people who truly loved me unconditionally. On the 30th day, my body began to show significant positive changes. I could get out of bed on my own and walk around the hospital's lush garden. The nutritious meals specially designed by a nutritionist, combined with advanced medical treatments my father had sourced from top specialists, helped me regain my weight. My pale and dull skin was now rosy again. My hair, which had been dry from malnutrition, slowly became shiny and soft. Standing in front of the large mirror in the bathroom, I almost didn't recognize the gaunt and frail woman from a month ago. Instead, what I saw was a radiant face, a firm gaze, and an exceptionally calm demeanor. During my recovery, my parents never mentioned my in-laws so as not to burden me. But I knew very well that to uproot their evil, I couldn't rely on tears or hatred alone. I needed the law and careful calculation. I asked my father for permission to meet with the company group's private legal team. Mr. Dr. Davenport, the head of the legal department with over 20 years of experience, personally came to the hospital to work with me every afternoon. We reviewed all the asset documents. The luxury penthouse in Manhattan, where I almost lost my life, was a property I bought before marriage using funds from my family trust. The property deed only had my name on it. Garrett had absolutely no rights to it. As for the trading company, I founded it with my own capital. But because I wanted to protect Garrett's pride in front of his relatives, I used my majority voting rights to appoint him as the chief executive officer, while I myself stepped back to be a mere logistics coordinator. Mr. Davenport carefully flipped through each page of the files, analyzing clearly. "Miss Thorne, legally you hold 95% of the company's shares. Mr. Garrett is merely a CEO appointed by your majority vote. At any time, you can hold a board meeting to unilaterally terminate his employment contract and revoke his position without needing his consent. The credit cards he used to splurge abroad are also supplementary cards directly linked to your personal account. We also found that he had squandered his entire CEO salary on risky secret investments over the years, leaving his personal accounts completely empty. Hearing that, I smiled sardonically, a bitter smile for my past foolishness, but also a victorious smile for the game at hand. I asked Mr. Davenport to immediately prepare all the necessary legal documents. First, a letter of termination for Garrett from his position as CEO. Second, the revocation of all his legal powers in the company. Third, preparations for an order to freeze the joint accounts and supplementary credit cards, just waiting for my command to be executed. All procedures for the transfer of names and legal asset security were completed secretly with the help of the lawyers and my family's extensive network. While I was busy with numbers, contracts, and legal clauses on the other side of the world, Garrett's family was still lost in their dream of false wealth. They were still regularly posting photos of their parties and luxury shopping sprees in Europe. They were spending the money earned through my sweat and tears with the mentality of heirs-to-be who would soon inherit a vast fortune from a dead person. The contrast between my cold, calculated calm here and their foolishness and greed there made the net I was casting even more perfect. On the 70th day, the head doctor officially declared that I had made a miraculous recovery. All vital indicators and lab test results were at ideal levels. The disease was completely in remission thanks to the latest medicine. I asked my parents' permission to leave the hospital and return to the penthouse in Manhattan to prepare for the best chapter of my life. My father agreed, but he insisted on assigning the group's most elite security team, led by Marcus, a former Special Forces soldier with a towering build and advanced combat skills, to escort me. I returned to that familiar home. The place had been cleaned, disinfected, and all the damaged furniture had been replaced by my father's people. The gloomy and depressing atmosphere of before had vanished, replaced by the warm scent of cinnamon essential oil. I carefully chose a maroon silk dress paired with an elegant fur shawl. I sat at the vanity, meticulously applying lipstick and powder. The reflection in the mirror was a powerful, elegant woman, showing no trace of weakness. I walked to the living room, sat on the plush sofa, enjoying a cup of premium herbal tea. Around me, 4 bodyguards in black suits with sunglasses stood rigidly in the 4 corners of the room. Everything was ready. The trap was set, just waiting for the greedy prey to walk right in. My transformation over these 74 days was not just a physical revival, but also the rebirth of a strong soul determined to seek justice for herself. The clock struck 300 p.m. According to the intelligence provided by my father's team, the flight from Europe carrying Garrett's family had landed 2 hours ago. Right now, they must be busy hauling their suitcases full of luxury goods into a taxi to return to the penthouse. My heart beat with a profound calm, without a hint of fear or anxiety. The atmosphere in the living room was so quiet that the ticking of the wall clock could be heard. I sipped my tea, savoring its delicate sweetness. Marcus, the captain of the security team, stood 1 meter away from me, his posture as solid as a fortress. The other 3 guards stood in a ready position, their eyes fixed on the sturdy wooden door. Everything in this house exuded an aura of power and piercing cold. From the hallway outside, the sound of rolling suitcases grew clearer, punctuated by the cheerful laughter and casual chatter of Garrett and his family. The apartment's soundproofing was excellent, but because they were talking so loudly, deliberately showing off to the neighbors, I could still hear every word clearly from inside. Brenda's voice was shrill, full of satisfaction. "Garrett, be careful with my new bag. It's a limited edition, cost a fortune. Even a little scratch would break my heart. Once we get home, rest for a bit, then open your laptop. Find a good funeral service number. Era's body must be starting to smell by now. We'll need to hire a professional disinfection team, too, so this beautiful house of mine doesn't stink." Tiffany chimed in enthusiastically. "That's right, Garrett. After the funeral, don't forget to call the lawyer to get the deed for this penthouse transferred right away. The company's directorship needs to be changed, too. I've been eyeing a pretty pink sports car. After we're done with Allah's affairs, you have to buy it for me, okay?" Garrett laughed with satisfaction, the laugh of someone convinced he had won the game. Mom, Tiffany, relax. Everything will be taken care of. The documents are in place, so the inheritance process will be quick. All the money in this house is ours now. You can buy whatever you want. Now, get ready to hold your noses. I'm opening the door. I heard the beeping of the smart lock panel outside. Garrett was entering the passcode. He had no idea that on the night I was taken to the ER, my father had ordered people to dismantle the old lock and install a new security system, perfectly restoring the heavy wooden door to look identical to how it was before they left. An error beep sounded. Garrett grumbled in frustration. Weird, the passcode is wrong. I definitely changed it to Tiffany's birthday when we left for the airport. Brenda grumbled. Try again, maybe you pressed the wrong number. This long trip is exhausting. I just want to get inside and rest. Garrett tried a second time, and the same error sound was heard again. Inside, I gave Marcus a signal. He nodded, walked calmly to the main door, turned the deadbolt from the inside, and suddenly swung the door wide open. The wooden door flew open, and light from the hallway flooded in, shining directly on the three tired and annoyed faces. And then, in a fraction of a second, all expression on their faces froze. The satisfied smirk on Garrett's lips vanished instantly, replaced by wide eyes, as if his eyeballs were about to pop out. Brenda's jaw dropped, and the luxury bag in her hand fell to the floor with a thud. Tiffany stumbled back a step, tripping over a large suitcase and nearly falling. Before them was not a dark, messy house with the foul smell of a decaying corpse. They were standing before a living room, bathed in sunlight with the soothing aroma of essential oils, and in the middle of the room, on an expensive sofa, sat me. I was wearing a brilliant red silk dress, exuding an aura of grace and power like a queen welcoming traitors. Around me, 4 tall, muscular men in black suits stared at them with gazes as sharp as knives. I slowly placed the teacup on the glass table and smiled faintly. My smile was very friendly, but it made the surrounding temperature seem to drop drastically. I said in a soft, clear voice, "How was your European vacation? You're back sooner than I expected. Why are you standing there like statues? Come in. The door is open." Not one of the 3 could utter a word. They were like stone statues frozen in place. The reality before their eyes was too surreal, too terrifying compared to what they had imagined. For the past 74 days, the woman they believed had died of hunger and thirst in the dark was now present, perfectly healthy, stunning, and in full control of this house. This fatal shock was the first gift I gave them on the day of their return. A suffocating silence enveloped the entire living room. Brenda was the first to recover from her shock. Her bossy and habitually shrewish nature quickly took over her fear. She strode in haughtily, pointed straight at my face, and screamed in a shrill voice, "Ara, you're not dead. If you're not dead, why did you dare change the door's passcode? And who are these thugs? Taking advantage of your husband's absence to bring other men into the house for fun. You're a truly shameless woman, disgracing my family's name." Seeing his mother speak up, Garrett quickly regained his courage. He rushed in, pretending to be a betrayed model husband, and shouted demandingly, "Mom's right. Explain everything to me. What have you been doing at home for these 74 days? Why are these bodyguards here? Don't think that just because you were sick, you can do whatever you want. The rules of this house don't allow you to act so recklessly." Tiffany, hiding behind her mother and brother, chimed in with a sneer. She must have been faking her serious illness to trick us into leaving. Then she partied with hired men at home. Just look at her silk dress and heavy makeup. Her true colors are showing. I sat quietly on the sofa, letting them hurl their accusations and slander. Their ridiculous act only highlighted their shamelessness and rotten character. I slowly stood up, smoothing my silk dress with a very calm demeanor. Marcus took half a step forward, intending to intervene to protect me from the insults, but I signaled for him to stop. I walked to the solid wood coffee table, picked up a thick-bound stack of documents. I walked slowly towards Garrett and his family. My gaze was cold, sweeping over each face that was trying to look arrogant. "Are you finished talking? If so, open your eyes wide and look at this." After saying that, I threw the stack of documents at Garrett's chest. The force was enough to make the files scatter and fall to the floor. The papers full of numbers spread out at their feet. They were copies of their credit card transaction reports from their 74 days abroad. Brendan Garrett looked down at them, and their expressions began to change. I said in a loud, clear voice, reciting every expense I had memorized. On the 15th of last month, Garrett charged $20,000 to the card to buy a Rolex watch in Italy. At that time, I was undergoing emergency resuscitation for cardiac arrest in the emergency room. On the 22nd, Tiffany charged the card for 3 Chanel bags in Paris for $15,000. On that same day, I had to be injected with a vital drug costing $2,000 just to stay alive. On the 5th of this month, Brenda spent $3.00 on dinner at a Michelin restaurant and bought luxury cosmetics. Meanwhile, her daughter-in-law was learning to walk again from scratch because her muscles had atrophied from lying in bed for too long. My voice grew louder, echoing throughout the room. In total, your family has spent over $500,000. In 74 days, all expenses were on a supplementary credit card issued by my company, directly linked to my personal account. You took my money, spent my earnings, flew to Europe to have fun, and left me at home after throwing away my medicine, cutting off the power, and turning off the water with the intent to kill me. Such a cruel conspiracy of murder and robbery. Did you think no one would know after I died? Brenda trembled and stammered. You're talking nonsense. Who conspired to kill you? The medicine was accidentally spilled by Garrett. The power and water were off because of a utility company issue. Don't slander us. Garrett's face was ashen. He realized that I not only knew everything, but also had solid proof. He tried to change tactics, softening his voice, feigning regret. Ara, you've misunderstood. We went on vacation because the tickets were already booked and couldn't be cancelled. As for at home, I thought you could call someone to help. Look, you're all better now. We're husband and wife. Let's resolve this peacefully. I burst out laughing, a bitter laugh that echoed in the room. Resolve this peacefully. You don't deserve to say that to me. All of your vile actions were recorded. From throwing the medicine bottles in the trash, turning off the water valve to flipping the main power switch, everything was clearly recorded by the penthouse's indoor smart security cameras. Don't even try to deny it. Your true faces have been exposed. My patience and love for this family died with me on that cold night. The one standing before you now is only the true owner of all the assets you covet. The irrefutable evidence and my firm statement were like ice water poured over Garrett and his family. Their arrogance and pride vanished, replaced by extreme panic. They looked at each other, then at the bank statements scattered on the floor. Finally, they looked at the 4 large bodyguards standing at the ready. Tiffany, the spoiled sister-in-law, couldn't handle the pressure and burst into hysterical tears. She clutched her luxury bag tightly and wailed. I didn't know anything. Throwing away the medicine and turning off the power. That was all Garrett and Mom's plan. I just went along for the trip. Forgive me, Ara. I don't want to be involved. Hearing her daughter's words, Brenda shot her an angry look, but she herself was trembling too much to stand straight. Her attitude changed in a flash. She stepped forward, about to grab my hand. Her tone became pleading. My dear daughter-in-law, I know I was wrong. It was all Garrett's rashness. I'm old and forgetful. I couldn't advise him properly. I'm sorry, dear. Please forgive our family this one time. We're still family after all. Garrett also rushed forward, showing deep remorse. He raised both hands and swore, Ara, I was wrong. It's like I was possessed by a demon to do those terrible things. I know you still love me. We've been together for so many years. Our marriage bond is strong. Give me one more chance to make it up to you. I promise to make you happy for the rest of my life. Please don't blow this up. Seeing these 3 putting on a show in front of me, I felt nauseous. Their hypocrisy and cowardice were far beyond my imagination. They were ready to blame each other, ready to kneel and beg for mercy when their interests were threatened. There was no sincerity or real remorse. They used the bond of marriage as a shield, But they forgot that they were the ones who had buried it alive. I coldly pulled my hand away, stepping back to avoid Brenda's touch. I looked straight into Garrett's eyes. My voice was firm without emotion. Family bonds, I'm sorry. But all of that ended on the night you threw my life-sustaining medicine into the trash. I gave you 74 days to enjoy the last of your luxurious life. Consider it my final act of kindness. Now that dream is over. Welcome back to reality. After that, I turned to Marcus, nodded, and gave a firm command. Marcus, do your job. Get these irrelevant people out of my house now. The order was given. The 4 bodyguards acted immediately with professional and decisive force. They moved in 3 directions, securing Garrett and his family. Marcus grabbed Garrett's upper arm. His strong grip made Garrett wooze in pain, unable to resist. Another guard locked Brenda's arms, while a third handled Tiffany. Brenda screamed hysterically, struggling like a mad woman. Let go of me. I'm his mother-in-law. I have the right to live in this house. You ungrateful daughter-in-law. How dare you kick out your mother-in-law? You'll be cursed. Garrett tried to fight back, shouting, Alara, you're insane. You want to kick out your own husband? This is our home together. I stood with my arms crossed, calmly replying, You're wrong. This penthouse is in my name alone, bought with my own money before we were married. You don't have a single cent of right to it here. Get them out. The 3 guards wordlessly and forcefully dragged Garrett and his family out. Their struggles were futile against the physical strength and skill of the professional guards. They were roughly pushed into the outer hallway. Then the 4th guard quickly grabbed all the luxury suitcases they had just brought and threw them out. The heavy suitcases slammed against the hallway walls, creating a loud noise. Tiffany shrieked, crawling on the floor to pick up her dropped handbag. Garrett and Brenda staggered to their feet, their clothes disheveled, their faces pale with shame. I stepped to the threshold, looking down on the people slumped at my feet, and gave a final warning. From this moment on, you have no relationship with me whatsoever. This penthouse is forever forbidden to you. If you dare to come here and cause trouble again, I will report you to the police for trespassing. Be prepared to face the consequences. After that, I stepped back and slammed the wooden door shut. The loud bang cut off the cries and curses from outside. I took out my phone, opened the smart home app, and immediately deleted all the old fingerprints and changed the password to something more complex. Finally, the house was quiet and clean again. The first step of this cleansing was complete, but this was just the beginning of their family's total destruction. The next morning, New York was greeted by a rare warm sunshine in the middle of winter. I woke up early, feeling refreshed and full of energy. After a sound sleep without nightmares, I put on a neat work outfit, a white silk shirt paired with a black pencil skirt, and an elegant long coat. It was time for me to clean up the mess Garrett had left at the company and cut off all their financial sources. With the security team escorting me, my first destination was the headquarters of the city's largest bank. As a top-tier private client, I was greeted directly by the branch manager in a VIP room. I placed my identity documents and family card on the table, giving firm instructions to freeze all balances in the 2 joint accounts I shared with Garrett. Furthermore, I requested the permanent blocking of all supplementary credit cards in the names of Garrett, Tiffany, and Brenda that were linked to my company account. All fixed-term deposits in my name were also to be moved to a new secure account, accessible only by me. The bank staff worked very quickly. Within 15 minutes, a series of confirmation messages arrived on my phone. All the cash flows that supported the lavish lifestyle of Garrett and his family had been officially cut off. From now on, they couldn't withdraw a single penny from my assets. Leaving the bank, we went straight to the office of the trading company I had founded. The Class A office building stood majestically in the bustling central business district. It had been a long time since I had returned to this place, not as a humble warehouse manager, but as the supreme authority. I walked into the main lobby with a confident and commanding presence. The receptionist and department heads who saw me looked shocked and confused. I went straight to the large conference room and asked the head of HR and the chief accountant to immediately hold an emergency meeting. There, I presented the proof of my 95% ownership of the shares, along with the emergency board resolution, and the decision to terminate Garrett's employment as CEO effective immediately. All administrative and legal procedures with the relevant ministries had been completed by my lawyer beforehand. Now was just the time for the official announcement. Around 1000 a.m., Garrett finally showed up at the office. He was wearing the flashy suit he bought in Italy, strutting in like a CEO, completely unaware of the storm that had already arrived. As he was about to step through the automatic glass doors, two security guards blocked him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Garrett. You are not allowed to enter." Garrett glared and snapped, "Are you blind? I'm the CEO of this company. Who gave you permission to block me? Move." Just then, the head of HR came out, carrying a small box containing a few of Garrett's personal belongings from his desk, along with a termination letter stamped in red. The manager coldly handed the box to Garrett and said, "Sir, as per the decision of the board of directors and the largest shareholder, Miss Thorne, you have been officially terminated from your positions as CEO as of this morning. You are no longer an employee of this company. Please take your personal belongings and leave the office premises." Garrett froze, his hand trembling as he received the termination letter. At the same time, the phone in his pocket rang loudly. It was Tiffany, her voice on the other end panicked and tearful. "Garrett, help me. I'm having coffee with friends at a 5-star restaurant. When I went to pay, the cashier said my card was blocked. I tried using another card to shop at the mall, but it was also declined. I don't have any cash on me. My friends are laughing at me here. Check your account, Garrett." Garrett frantically opened the banking app on his phone. The screen only displayed a red notification. "Account frozen at the request of the primary account holder. All transactions denied." He stood there petrified in the middle of the building's lobby. The box in his hand fell, its contents scattering. All the arrogance built on his parasitic status now lay shattered in pieces. In less than 24 hours, from being people rolling in wealth, Garrett and his family had been stripped of all luxury, officially becoming penniless in the harsh reality of life. My total economic punishment had delivered a fatal blow, opening a new chapter of suffering for the ungrateful. Expelled from the magnificent office building, Garrett walked dejectedly on the sidewalk, clutching the box of his trivial belongings. The cold winter wind pierced through his thin suit jacket, making him shiver in his pocket. His phone kept ringing with calls from his mother and sister. He answered the phone with a weary voice, informing them that all accounts were blocked and he had just been fired. From the other end, the sound of Tiffany's crying and Brenda's complaints was deafening. The three of them met at a cheap diner in a small alley, in stark contrast to their glamorous appearance just after getting off the plane. They now looked utterly shabby. Their scuffed luxury suitcases lay on the dusty ground. Tiffany's eyes were swollen from crying, her makeup smudged. Brenda sat slumped in a plastic chair, her face a mask of extreme panic. Garrett rummaged through all his pockets, and the loose change he collected amounted to only about $50. That amount wasn't even enough to hire a cab to transport their belongings, let alone find a place to stay. As night fell, the cold of New York began to bite. With no other choice, Garrett was forced upon some of the luxury goods they had just bought. He took Tiffany's Chanel bag and removed the Rolex watch from his wrist. However, without authenticity papers and in a desperate position, the pawnshop owner would only buy them at a very low price, less than a quarter of their original value. Holding a handful of cash, Garrett tasted the bitterness of reality. Those luxury items, without the aura of wealth, were just lifeless objects that couldn't save them. With what little money they had, the three of them found a cheap room in a crowded, run-down motel. The room was damp, cramped with peeling walls and a musty smell. There was no soft bed or heating, only a rickety wooden bed frame and a thin, worn-out blanket. Brenda shed tears. Just yesterday, she was sleeping in a 5-star hotel. Now, she had to huddle in this squalid place. Their first dinner was 3 bowls of instant ramen, made with hot water borrowed from the motel owner. Their stomachs were empty, but no one had an appetite. Exhaustion, disappointment, and fear for the future began to eat away at their fragile family bond. The blame game started. Brenda slammed down her plastic fork, pointed at Garrett's face, and scolded him. "This is all your fault. You're a husband, but you're a fool, letting your wife control everything. Now we've lost everything. Why did you say everything was under your control? You said the inheritance would soon be yours. Look at us now. Your old mother has to suffer with you." Garrett wouldn't back down. He yelled back at his mother. "I did all this for the family too. When I swiped the card to buy bags and watches for you and Tiffany, did you protest? You just laughed happily. Now there's a problem. Why is all the blame on me?" Tiffany, hearing the argument, became even more upset. She slammed her ramen bowl on the floor and cried loudly, "Stop it. Arguing won't solve anything. I can't live in this filthy place anymore. Tomorrow, Garrett, you have to go to the office and ask for our money back. At least ask for my tuition money. If not, I'll just drop out of college." In that cold motel room, the sounds of arguing and crying mingled, creating a miserable atmosphere. After just one night of hardship, their selfish and spoiled natures were on full display. They didn't reflect on the crimes they had committed against me at all, only busy blaming each other for their lost personal interests. This suffering was just the beginning of the moral punishment they had to face. The next morning, just as I arrived at my office, my assistant ran in panicking. In the lobby downstairs, Garrett and his family were causing a scene, attracting the attention of many employees and visitors. Out of desperation, they had decided to create a drama, hoping public pressure would force me to give in and give them money. Through the CCTV screen connected to my office, I watched their entire cheap theatrics. Brenda had deliberately smeared her face with dirt to look pathetic. She sat on the shiny marble floor, beating it with her hands while wailing. "Everyone, please look. My daughter-in-law stole our fortune and kicked out her husband and mother-in-law. We took care of her when she was sick. Now that she's healthy, she's abandoned us to starve." Garrett stood beside her with a sad expression, trying to explain to the people around him. "My wife is having an affair. They conspired to frame me and seize the company I built with my own hard work. I just want to meet and talk peacefully, but she had security throw us out." Tiffany also played her part well, sobbing while begging for mercy. "My sister-in-law is so cruel. She cut off all my tuition money. She wants me to drop out of school. Our family has nowhere to live now. We just hope she'll give us a chance to live." The crowd grew larger. Whispers were heard, and the building's security guards had to form a barricade to prevent them from getting further inside. Some people even started recording with their phones. I sat calmly in my director's chair, sipping warm coffee. I wasn't angry and had no intention of going down to argue with them. Shameless people will do anything when cornered. I explicitly ordered my assistant to tell the building security to hold back and let them put on their show a little longer, ensuring enough people recorded their pathetic act before officially kicking them out. While they were busy acting in the lobby, the media team from my family's company moved silently. A detailed post complete with strong evidence was uploaded to various major social media platforms. It wasn't filled with harsh words, but a series of CCTV video clips. The first video showed Garrett coldly throwing all my medicine into the trash, turning off the power and water before leaving. The second was a compilation of their photos and videos, partying in Europe, taken from their own social media accounts, accompanied by copies of credit card bills totaling over $50,000 while I was fighting for my life. And the last was a contrasting video showing them rolling on the floor and crying in the company lobby. In just a few hours, the post went viral. A wave of public outrage exploded with hundreds of thousands of shares and comments, fiercely condemning the cruel actions of Garrett's family. Netizens were horrified by a husband's malicious intent to kill his wife for her fortune. Sharp comments rained down on them. Someone wrote, "This husband is crueler than an animal. He deserves the harshest punishment." Another commented, living off his wife, conspiring to kill her, and now playing the victim after being kicked out, an immoral family. The power of social media was incredible. Their personal information and address were quickly found and spread by netizens. The victim masks they wore in the building lobby were torn to shreds. The authorities arrived, dispersed the crowd, and asked Garrett's family to leave. They walked away dejectedly, followed by curses and contemptuous stares from the people around. The heavens are never blind. No matter how neatly a crime is covered up, it will eventually be exposed and judged by society. The social media storm quickly spilled over into the real world, turning the lives of Garrett's family into a series of tragedies. After the truth was revealed, all doors of hope were closed to them. They finally felt what it was like to be ostracized by the entire community. Garrett, the mastermind behind it all, became a public enemy. Out of money, he tried to find menial jobs. However, his face was plastered everywhere. When he went for an interview, the HR manager immediately recognized him and threw him out rudely. "Our company does not hire people with depraved morals like you. Please leave. Don't dirty our office." He was blacklisted from the entire job market. Tiffany's fate was no better. The video of her drama went viral among the students at her university. When she entered the campus, all eyes looked at her with disgust. The friends who once admired her wealth now avoided her. The final blow came when she was officially dropped from all her classes due to overdue tuition fees, and the student body ostracized her completely. Her college future was ruined. Meanwhile, Brenda had her worst day at the local grocery store. As she was about to pay for her groceries, the cashier recognized her from the viral video. The manager immediately stepped in, refusing her service and asking her to leave, shouting, "Get out! We don't serve people like you. Everyone knows what you and your son did to your daughter-in-law." Other shoppers joined in, loudly, shaming her until she ran away in a panic. The peak of their suffering occurred when they returned to the motel. The motel manager, a gruff man, was waiting at the door with their bags already packed. He crossed his arms and said, "You're moving out now. Reporters and angry people have been coming here all morning, disturbing the other guests. I've already called the cops to have you trespassed. Take your things and get off my property before they arrive." Night fell and the New York cold was bone-chilling. The three of them were stranded on the streets without money, without a destination, tired, hungry, and cold. Eventually, they dragged their worn-out suitcases to a space under a highway overpass, huddling in a corner to escape the wind. Brenda shivered, hugging Tiffany. Garrett sat in a daze, his eyes empty. In the biting cold, they finally felt the consequences of their own cruelty. Luxury clothes could no longer warm them. Expensive bags lay worthless. They had once left me in darkness, and to die. Now karma had made them feel the same desperation, multiplied. Today was the day of the divorce and asset dispute hearing between me and Garrett at the state courthouse. I entered the courtroom in an elegant black suit, my hair neatly tied in a bun. My demeanor was calm and confident. Behind me was the best legal team led by Mr. Davenport. In contrast, Garrett looked utterly pathetic. He was gaunt and haggarded with dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled and dirty. Brenda and Tiffany, who accompanied him, could only bow their heads. The hearing began. My lawyer, Mr. Davenport, fluently presented all the evidence. He explained the origin of all the assets, both the penthouse and the company. All documents, bank reports, and deeds proved that the assets were my personal property acquired before the marriage, or with help from my family. Garrett had made no financial contribution whatsoever. The most tense part was when the judge played the CCTV footage showing Garrett throwing away my medicine, turning off the power, and shutting off the water valve. The entire courtroom rumbled with anger. My lawyer then petitioned for 100% of the marital assets and full financial restitution due to egregious marital fault and dissipation of funds. Garrett tried to defend himself with a weak voice. "Your Honor, it was an accident. The medicine fell. I beg you to give me a small portion of the assets to start a new life. I have nothing left." The presiding judge banged his gavel. Defendant, do not evade. The CCTV footage proves your intent. The law protects rights, not greed and immoral acts. The hardship you are experiencing now is the result of your own actions. After deliberation, the panel of judges read the verdict. Our divorce was finalized. All assets, both the penthouse and the company, were declared my sole property. Garrett's claim was denied. Furthermore, the court ordered Garrett to repay every cent spent on the European trip, and the judge noted that all evidence had been forwarded to the district attorney for pending criminal charges of attempted murder. The judge's gavel fell, closing the dark chapter of my life. Justice had been served. Garrett collapsed onto the floor in shock. Brenda and Tiffany wept hysterically. This verdict not only shattered their dreams, but also burdened them with a huge debt that was impossible for an unemployed person like Garrett to pay. That was the price they had to pay for their boundless greed. The sky over New York was clear today. I stepped out of the courthouse, taking a deep breath of fresh air. The heavy burden that had been on my shoulders for so long was finally lifted. I felt light, at peace, and free. There was no more hatred, only the pure freedom of someone who had been reborn. Marcus had already opened the door of the luxury car for me. Just as I was about to get in, 3 ragged figures ran and blocked my way. It was Garrett, Brenda, and Tiffany. They looked so pathetic. Without any shred of dignity left, they all knelt on the cold asphalt. Brenda fell to her knees and pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "Ara, please, I know my sins are great. Living under the bridge has opened my eyes. I was wrong, greed blinded me, forgive me." Tiffany hugged my legs, crying, "All forgive me. I was foolish and joined in doing evil things to you. I've been kicked out of all my classes, my friends have abandoned me. Please give me a chance to change." Garrett cried before me, the tears of a grown man streaming down his face. "Ara, I realize my mistake is enormous. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not worthy. I will accept this punishment. I only beg you to give my mother and sister a little money so they can afford a bus ticket to leave New York and start over somewhere else. I promise I will work hard to pay off my debt. Please don't let us die of starvation on the streets." I stood silently looking at them. On the brink of life and death, humans finally realized what is truly valuable. Their tears of regret today seemed sincere, a moral awakening after experiencing extreme suffering. This lesson, though late, was the most valuable one for them. However, understanding does not mean condoning. Forgiving was to release the burden in my heart, not to go back and save those who had once hurt me. I no longer hated them, but I would not offer any more help. Money and help had been exchanged for this expensive life lesson. I looked at them one last time. My voice was soft, but firm. "I accept your apologies. Between us, all accounts are settled. There are no more debts. The road ahead is your own choice. Live it and bear your own fate. Never appear before me again." After that, I resolutely got into the car. The door closed, separating my peaceful world from their suffering. I drew the window curtain, not looking back. I said to the driver in a light and cheerful tone, "Let's go now. Let's go home. Dad and Mom are waiting for lunch." The car glided smoothly on the bright road. As we pulled away, I saw 2 NYPD police cruisers rush up to the courthouse with their sirens blaring. Officers stepped out and immediately handcuffed Garrett for his pending criminal charges. Behind me, the 3 people were now facing the ultimate consequences of their actions, crying in deep regret. While before me stretched a vast sky, the warm embrace of my parents, and a new bright and peaceful life awaiting. The story of greed and betrayal had ended, replaced by true justice and priceless peace of mind. Ladies and gentlemen, closing this dramatic tale, perhaps the lingering cold silence of that dark room, or the image of regretful tears under the bridge, still leaves us with deep reflections. Perhaps from this story, we realize that the most frightening thing in this world is not illness but human greed and cruelty, especially from those we call family. The greatest lesson is that karma is real and just. Those who sow evil will reap destruction, ostracized by society and the law. On the other hand, this story also makes us aware of the importance of a woman's independence and resilience. Even in the worst situations, we must be the masters of our own lives. Be financially independent and be brave enough to defend our destiny. Never surrender your life into the hands of others, because the strength from within and the true bond of blood are our safest harbors. In the end, no matter how luxurious the clothes or how vast the fortune, none of it can cover up a rotten character. Only sincere love, gratitude, and kindness are the solid foundations for a person to live with their head held high in this